Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking a little bit about something called manifest destiny. So this is a really important part of American history where we're beginning to look west, right? So we've been kind of figuring ourselves out for a while. We've kind of settled on, what as Americans, who we are, what we believe in. And now that we've kind of gotten that figured out, we can kind of start looking for the future, right? So imagine we go to a fortune teller, right? We've got our crystal ball, and the fortune teller looks into the crystal ball and we say, hey, is it our destiny to keep moving west? And the fortune teller looks in the crystal ball and says, yes, it is. Move west, young man, right? That's essentially what we're doing here. We're looking into the future and going, it is our destiny, okay? This phrase is first used by a guy named John O'Sullivan, who said it is the right of our manifest destiny to spread and to possess the whole continent, like all of what is now North America, which Providence has given us for the development of the great experiment of liberty and the federative development of self-government entrusted to us. It is right, such as that of the tree to the space of the air and the earth, suitable for the full expansion of its principle and destiny of growth. So basically, God likes us best because we are all free and liberty and stuff, and we have self-government, which God gave to us as a gift, right? So he wants us to have it all, right? We have it all, and we can develop it our own way, and God's going to love us best because of this. So manifest means clear or obvious. Destiny meaning it's inevitable, right? It's our purpose, right? So it is in the stars in our future that we are going to take all of America, right? So we're going to get a little bit more into the effects of this and what happens with this in class, but you should have a graphic organizer that looks like this. It's kind of a funky Venn diagram-ish kind of thing going on here. But today what we're going to do is specifically look at the 3 trails that got us moving westward. So specifically, there are hundreds of these trails, right? But specifically, we're going to be looking at 3 of the biggies: the Mormon Trail, the Sante Fe Trail, and the Oregon Trail. Okay, and you may have heard of some of these before, but we're going to take a look at kind of what were they all about, how were they similar, sorry for the bell, how were they different, and kind of what their purpose was, right? So these are just some pictures here from the art of the time period that just show you, like, if you look, so these people who are moving west, right, they've got an angel that's protecting them. If you look in this picture, there's the people pointing out west and seeing, like, the light falling on it. These just kind of show this idea of manifest destiny, right? Like, again, that God likes us best. So the first one that I want to show you here, we've got some pictures here, is the Sante Fe Trail. So the Sante Fe Trail, you can see on this part of the map, is the shortest of the 3. It goes to Santa Fe, right? Obviously, it starts in Missouri, goes to Santa Fe. This one's going to be primarily a trading trail, so that's kind of something to keep in mind. This map shows the Oregon Trail. Again, starts in Missouri, goes out to Oregon Territory, which you may remember we are currently sharing with the British, right? So keep that in mind. Then we have the Mormon Trail, which, as you can see, again, starts in this area and goes out this way and ends in Salt Lake City, right? Actually, if you look, the Mormon Trail, it crosses here, but it actually starts over in Illinois, but ends in Salt Lake City, okay? So those are the 3 major trails. What's important to kind of keep in mind about these trails here, we're talking about people who are giving up their entire lives to move west. There's no phone, there's no trains in the West yet. So people, when they leave, they're basically saying, I'm giving it up for good, right? I'm never coming home. I'm never going to see you again, right? So this is a really big decision that these people are making by moving west and trying to start this new life and settling this new life. And we're going to get into some of the reasons why, more specifically in class. But today we're just going to kind of be looking at what this is all about, right? These are just some interesting pictures. These are from the Mormon Trail specifically. So the Mormon Trail, what's kind of interesting is that they would use these little hand carts. They didn't have a lot of beasts of burden like ox and donkey, but they had a lot of women because a lot of these guys were polygamists. And so when they would go on the west, they have all these women, right? And so the women actually kind of become the beast of burden by taking these like miniature covered wagons that they would pull or their children would pull. So just kind of one of the interesting little pictures here. But let's go ahead and jump right in. So all three of these trails, the things that they have in common, so this is going to be in the center here of your chart. All three of them face a lot of dangers from attacks from Native Americans. Remember, they're moving into territory that's already been settled, right? Weather, okay, so, you get into a harsh storm, maybe a tornado, right? That's going to be, you can't predict it. All three are going to face diseases, whether they are bacterial diseases that come out of the water that they're drinking, or maybe, you break a leg, it gets infected. All of them are going to be, they're going to be tough journeys. Probably a lot of the people that are going are going to die, right? You might not get out there with your whole family. All three move west, obviously, and they all are moving west into territory that's not owned by the United States. So when they get there, because there's so many Americans now living there, it's going to strengthen the claim the United States has to that territory, right? So, well, there's more of us than there are of Mexicans, for example. So if they move to Santa Fe, that's Mexican territory. Well, there's more of us than there are of them, right? So obviously it should belong to us, right? So let's first look at what the three trails specifically we have. The Oregon Trail began with Methodist missionaries who are seeking to kind of convert some of the natives in the area. Eventually, it's going to be more families and things like that, but that's kind of how it begins. It starts in Independence, Missouri, ends in Portland, Oregon. That's the basics, right? And you got to remember, they would have markers set up along the way and, stops where people could go and buy supplies and things like that. So it's not like they're just setting out in the middle of nowhere, right? They have a specific trail that they're following. So this one is primarily going to be about missionaries, at least at first, right? Sante Fe Trail also starts in Independence, Missouri, and goes to New Mexico. Like I said before, this one's primarily a trade trail. This is one of the only ones where people went there and then came back, right? So they go, they trade, they come back. The problem is, because of that, the people that are on the Sante Fe Trail don't always back each other up because they're competitors, right? They're trading against each other. So you're kind of all alone on this one. With the Oregon Trail, you might have a bunch of families that go together, whereas on this one, you're kind of on your own until the threat is really real. If you see Native Americans on the horizon that are coming at you, then maybe you'll band together and work together. But you're not going to really do that until you get really scared, right? So the Sante Fe Trail is a little bit more individual. The Mormon Trail is about people trying to escape religious persecution. So Mormons is a relatively new religion that founds in the early 1800s, and a lot of people are really iffy about Mormons. There's some branches of Mormonism, especially in the 1800s, who believed in polygamy. Most Americans weren't really crazy about that idea, so they were getting a lot of persecution. They started in New York, eventually moved to Illinois. They're not even able to get anything in Illinois, so they leave from Illinois to go to Salt Lake City, Utah, which today is still has some of the biggest population of Mormons in our country. They're led at first by the founder of Mormonism, a guy named Joseph Smith. However, he dies, and then Brigham Young takes over. So these are the kind of the main names you need to know with Mormonism. So how are some of these trails similar? So the Mormon Trail and the Oregon Trail are both founded by religious people. They're both people who plan to stay permanently in an area, right? They're not going to come back. They're going to stay. These are people who are leaving their families for good. It's also important to remember that these are going to be mostly family groups that are traveling, right? You might even want to write that down in that box too. So these are going to be people who travel in family groups, who stay with families. They're going to settle, right? The Sante Fe and Oregon Trail both began in Independence, Missouri. That was kind of the hub, right? The Grand Central Station of the trails, where people could stop and get supplies. There were experts there and that sort of thing. And then the Mormon Trail and the Sante Fe Trail are both going to territory that was originally owned by Mexico. This is actually going to be really important as we get into talking more about what is going on here. So this is going to strengthen U.S. claim to Mexico, right? And then, of course, the other one strengthening U.S. claim to Oregon, which, as I said before, we share with the British. So what we're going to find as we look at these trails is we're going to look more in depth at some of the dangers of them, what's going on, what are the results of all of these people coming together and doing this. So we're going to talk more specifically about that in class. So hold on to your hats, and we'll get into that later. Until then, have a good evening.